Hey, welcome back. We are going to be going through session two of the growth module. And this is going to really focus on how to use ads to grow your following. So in session one, we covered, kind of debunking some of the myths about social media and some of the best practices. Using Airbnb as an example, they're still here on the screen. And I think that for a lot, at least I hear from clients on a fairly consistent basis, is this idea that like, yeah, the brand stuff is just kind of fluffy. And well, I do not think that's true. I think the brand components are really important. They really help to define success. I think probably what people's intentions are in saying that is, how do I get into the technical engagement of the audience? And so that's what this second session really is about, which it gets into how to use these social tools in order to affect an action, whether that is a call to action being supporting your organization. So we're going to look at something I call a growth engine, and we're going to go over and talk about how you turn a Facebook audience into an audience that supports you. Um, and then also how to grow your audience using paid ads. You can sit there and you can post, and this is actually a pretty famous story, and it's a pretty story that hits a lot of people. I launched a blog and I wrote every day for a year, and my audience didn't grow, or it grew so slow that it just wasn't worth doing. How do you make it worth doing? And one of the things that can help you do that are, in fact, paid ads. So we're going to go through, and paid ads, I mean, it's a really would require a class in a myriad of marketing elements. So, I mean, I feel like we're going to really scratch the surface, but the things that I've chosen to show you today actually are. I think the most important, I mean, it puts you into the realm of being dangerous with ads out of day one. And then if you expand and Google your questions and grow what you're doing, I think you can learn a lot to help you, over the next, weeks and months in growing your audience exponentially. And so I think it is incredibly helpful that way. But it is in by no means a way to communicate the depth and breadth of what paid advertisement really is, and how and I think that a lot of people are scared of it, because they think that it's outside of their spectrum of understanding, but it is incredibly complex in the testing and the analysis and grabbing each one of the elements together. But that doesn't, because of its complexity and depth, it doesn't mean you shouldn't use it. A really good example of that is when I jumped into Photoshop from a design standpoint, Adobe Photoshop. And I got in there and I started to create things. The level of tools and the complexity of those tools and how to use them and when and how to layer all of the different images, it just blew my mind. It just felt too big. And the only way that I was able to really kind of get good at Photoshop, or at least mediocre, I definitely have designers that are better, but the only way to learn Photoshop was to really get in there. I took a lot of courses, but the real depth of my knowledge came from just interacting with it all the time. And so what I want to do is actually make that not scary and give you a reason to be in, Facebook paid ads, and start to toy around with it and launch some like Facebook like campaigns that are going to help you grow. And some of you that are watching this module are probably thinking, yeah, I know how to do that. I know how to launch Facebook like campaigns. But what I would do is I would challenge you not to see it as this intro, but take the little nuggets of maybe more complex things that I'm going to say, and especially understanding the funnel aspect of it, which I think is really helpful to be able to take what you already know in Facebook ads, if you are in there, and grow your knowledge base using your own creativity. And using the tools that I'm going to offer today. So there's a couple of things that we're going to cover in this second session. And in session one, I broke it up into two sections. And here I'm going to keep it into one, maybe a little bit longer session, because it fundamentally all exists in the same playing field, which is ads. And we're going to talk a little bit about growth. Then we're going to get into the ads, and then finally how to turn your online followers into supporters. So let's start with growth. And in another module, I gave a definition, and I kind of want to read and go through that definition right now, because I think the clearest definition for growth in regards to this discussion is that growth is the ability to strategically and effectively engage more people with two specific traits. And this is actually really important here. They agree with that your cause is important and they are willing to act. Okay. As a nonprofit, you can find your audience with those two traits. You will be successful, period. Okay. And that's what I said in the other module. And I want to reiterate it here because it's really important. Those two specific traits, especially when you're paying money to grow your audience, which the vast majority, maybe 100% of you are, is that your audience, they have to agree with your cause and they have to be willing to act. If they are not willing to do those two things, they are not an audience worth having. You are wasting your money if you are not getting that audience. So that's really important that when I am talking about growth, I am talking about finding people that believe in you, okay? And also finding people that will act and having that be your audience, okay? Finding people that believe in you, a lot more simple. Finding people that will act, a lot more complicated. So I'm going to try to help you with that definition. And so, in the second question to that really is why does your nonprofit need growth? And the reality is that you may decide that online fundraising isn't for you, okay, and that you really like to use direct mail, or you really like to use paid advertisement, maybe even on TV. Um, and so one of the things that I think is really, or major donors make up 90% of your ask or in-person donations. The thing is that I think especially, and this is going to date the video, which is okay. I gave some dates in the other session, but I think that when you look at things from the aspect of a pandemic, I remember I was sitting on the phone with a client just as the pandemic was hitting, and we were talking about specifically church donations, tithing, supporting your church, and we were going over some numbers, and the reality was that 97% of their donations came from people attending church and engaging in the tithing or an offering or whatever it is that your specific church calls it, and 97% and only 3% gave online. The pandemic effectively shut down physical church, right? So you couldn't go into church. And what do they do when 97% of their audience is not there and present to support the mission of the church? What do you do when only 3% understand and are practiced in giving online? What do you do if your organization is fully funded by three different donors that are major givers, and then some other smaller major donors, and then you have this sort of trickling in of online, value that's coming in online, but you really haven't invested in it, and you use these major donors? What happens when they find something else? What happens when they pass on and you haven't really set up a proper relationship to be engaged in that will in order to further the mission? What happens when they stop giving, or they hit financial hardship, right? That happens as well. So I think the thing is that why your nonprofit needs to do this, or why your nonprofit needs to grow online, is because putting all of your eggs in one basket is not a smart strategic way to grow your programs. You have to have audiences all over the place and really trying to get to a split where programmatically you can still be effective if you were to lose some element of your giving, whether that is a decline in a specific major donor, or that's major donor giving across the board. So um, and just discussing the pandemic and from a major donor standpoint, a lot of major donors, their finances took a hit during the pandemic. Take into effect, 97%, remember this church, 97% was in-person giving. And then the major donors, the people that really financially supported them, most likely took a hit during the pandemic as well. And so those funds aren't there, even if they were to be there in person, right? So I think that this church specifically was in a scramble to say, how do we engage an audience that we never took the time to build, that we never took the time to build those relationships and foster those relationships. So yeah, this stuff over here, this other this other session of building brand, and you sit there and say, well, that's not really that important, or that's fluffy. It's fluffy until you're in trouble and you're in a pandemic and you only have 3% of your audience that you've never really engaged with because you didn't value growing and building your online audience. So that, to me, I mean, that's not a scare tactic, by the way. You run your organization however you'd like. I'm just telling you that there is some substantial value and protective measures in why you need to understand online growth, why that's important, and why you need to invest in it. Okay, so you get growth, you understand that you need to do it. The next question is, how do you do it? Okay. And so one of the things that we're going to look at, first of all, we're going to go back to Airbnb really quick on Facebook. Most of this is going to be focused on Facebook. And the reason for this is, one, Facebook owns Instagram. So everything I'm saying in Facebook generally applies. And when it doesn't, I'll kind of let you know. YouTube ads and getting into Facebook ad sections, I probably only have YouTube and Google ads, depending on your organization and what you're doing. For the vast majority of nonprofits, and I'm talking to like 95% here, Facebook ads are going to be the better traffic driver, and so that's where I'm going to focus my time. Than getting into Google ads, search ads, and YouTube ads and Google ad services. So we're going to we're going to pull back in here to Facebook because I think it's the best use of your time in this module. So when you're scrolling through Facebook and you are, and let's say that Airbnb, I was the admin on this page, I would have a little boost button here. Okay. Now, in session 1, I believe it was, of this growth module, I said that Airbnb has 16.2 million fans, right? So that's right here. And I said they can put in a piece of content, and I said theoretically they can reach 16.2 million fans, not actually. Okay. I don't know if you happen to have caught that, but there's a reason for that, and that's because Facebook has a thing called reach. And so you cannot reach all of your audience just because you have them. You don't own them. Facebook does. And so in this, when you go down here and you were to see this boost, right, this boost button, when you click that, the option there is what you are trying to do is actually reach more individuals through paid growth as opposed to organic. Okay. So when you click the boost button and you say, okay, I want to reach more people, I want to engage more people, and you have some options there about what you can choose. And I'm not going to pull up a client's account here, obviously. I'm just going to kind of show you here uh, through Airbnb. But most people are familiar with that boost button. You click the boost button and you boost your post. And the boost word is important. It means that, yes, Facebook is acknowledging you're not going to reach 16.2 million people with every single one of your posts, but we'll let you pay to reach a greater amount of those. I do not know what Airbnb's reach is. Maybe it is 100,000, 150,000 people. But you can think if your Facebook fans are, let's say, 500,000, you can probably assume your reach is going to be in the 10,000 range, somewhere in there. Maybe better if your content's really engaging. And that's the other component of that too, is that you want to make engaging content because it improves your organic reach, which also improves your paid reach, how many people you're able to reach through paid. So that's the first thing in the sense of when you think about quote unquote growing your audience or reaching your audience. One of the things that you can do in Facebook in order to be able to do that. And really quickly, I want to, now that we've covered the boost, which is the most simplistic way for you to create an ad on Facebook, I want to talk about talk about something here really quick that we already mentioned and we talked through when we said benchmarks. I don't know if you recall, but we said that Facebook was not their Airbnb's main audience, and that they used it for a very specific reason. Instagram was their main audience here because you can see that they're posting every single day. They're engaging. But the most important thing to mention here between the two was that Facebook comments were their lead benchmark, and then likes, there's the hearts was their lead engagement effort on Instagram. Okay, so I want to take a moment to reiterate as we get into ads. Proper benchmarks and KPIs define your success and your failure. If I were to say that comments were the number one thing on Instagram for Airbnb, Airbnb has failed. Okay. If I were to say that reactions, the likes, the hearts on Airbnb, Facebook were what we wanted to do, Airbnb has failed. Okay. You have to understand what you're doing on each platform, and that means setting the proper strategy, the proper benchmarks and KPIs, key performance indicators, in order to define your success. So don't get trapped into that sort of like one track mind, holistic thinking of, well, we want reactions. That's what defines engagement. That is not what defines engagement. I'm sure they're very excited to have this many comments and this defined of an audience here on Facebook. So you define your audience, you define what works. Quickly going into Airbnb, and this will kind of be the last of them that we deal with before we get into some into Facebook Ads Manager and sort of what people call the back end of Facebook. I want to quickly go over, this is Airbnb's ad. I actually have, because when we talk about through Ads Manager, I'm going to go through copy, I'm going to go through image and video, and I'm going to make comments on that. But I want you to see this is an actual live ad from Airbnb that I can see, and I want to go through it a little bit and kind of show you what it is. I'm not going to play it here because I think that's distracting, but I am going to go through it. So first of all, let's read through their copy here. Hosting is magical, especially when your home is a giant snake. That's actually a great opening line. Hosting is magical. Okay, so now we know just intuitively from that copy that hosting is the concept of this video, right? They're going to be focusing on hosting. This isn't for you if you want to rent. This is for you if you want to host, especially when your home is a giant snake. Well, now I've got to see the video, right? Like that's super interesting. And then they go on to add in this information. Patricia is the host. And then this, and I can't pronounce that city, I apologize, but a home that is a gigantic snake. And then they add in something, Quetzalcoatl, I think is actually the pronunciation, or something close there too. And then the Aztec, the god of wind, equals the Aztec god of wind. That has nothing to do with hosting. It has nothing to do with the house being a giant snake. It is information that is unneeded, right, and unnecessary. When I read this, viscerally, kind of just reading through this before I'm presenting it to you, I remember getting to that part and thinking, "You're taking me in a totally different direction." That was a mistake. I would have changed that ad. The nest that rivals a small national park. Okay, now we're back to something interesting. So this nest, this giant snake, which we have yet to see here, rivals a small national park. She lives in a snake. What in the heck am I going to see here? That's interesting. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can kind of skip through here. First, I got fall. Really professional. Love the bold copy. Remember, that's the same copy that we're going to see here. I think if we scroll down, we start to see, it's obviously a bolder font, but it's super rounded. Sans serif font, which is, same kind of look and feel. I think it's actually the exact same font. It's just a little bit bolder. And so let's bring it down here. And now we start to see her home, which literally is a giant snake. So they when they set up, and I'm going to bring it back here. I want to land. There we go. So that's the entrance there. So they delivered, right? So they said hosting is magical, especially when your home is a giant snake. I got to see that. And now that I'm seeing this, I'm thinking, wow, that's amazing. So they delivered in their ad, which I think is fantastic. So the copy, the hosting is magical. It's a great lead-in line. It tells me that this is about hosting. You have a hook here that the home is a giant snake, which is phenomenal. Okay. And the rest of the ad, I think you can leave. It's you need to I would have rewritten the rest of that ad, but just to start here, I think this is really a great intro. And then the video, let's go back into the video. So seeing this, I'm thinking that's phenomenal. Let me go back to the very beginning though. I'm not so jazzed about that as an image or as a thumbnail for this video. Now, they may have wanted, the thought might have been, especially when your home is a giant snake, remember that's the hook and they don't want to give you everything right away. So there might have been something that that they wanted to hide behind this sort of stained glass look. I understand that. I can understand that from a strategy, but this to me gives me nothing, right? Like it gives me nothing. So I think that you definitely want to change this image. That, thinking through that image of that ad would be really important. I think this is a fail. So we've gone over, what your image looks like, or in this instance, the thumbnail of the video, and then what the copy looks like, right? So here, hit it out of the park with their hook, with their opening line, tells me what they're going to be talking about. That's so important. Don't hide what you're going to be talking about from the person. You've got 5-10 seconds with them. You want them to click that learn more button. Knock it out of the park. Here we have an image that is, I think, failed. They could have done with something, a little bit better. I don't know if maybe one of these things would have been too much given away. Even this would have been a little bit more powerful to me than this. This says nothing. Now, it's important to note that if I were to go and I were to launch this ad and I were to use this image instead of the other one, yeah, it makes more sense. What they may have run into is something in Facebook that's called the 20% text rule. Your text can only cover 20% of the image, or Facebook downgrades it and doesn't serve it to as many people. So you end up having to pay more for each call to action that you have. Okay, so that may have been the reason. Again, I'm guessing. I don't run Airbnb social accounts. I don't run their ads, so therefore I can only guess. But in guessing, I'm letting you know the rules about how to properly sort of build these out. So that for me, I think is really important. I would have gone with something different than this. I would have preferred to use this. I don't know that the text rule might have precluded it. I might have actually brought the text down a little bit in order to make it work, because I think this is much more engaging. It has that sort of cultural feel of Mexico. It's very bright. It would have really popped in somebody's news feed, and it reiterates me back to when your home is a snake, Patricia in the Snake House. It hooks me in or it brings me back to that hook without having to actually give me nothing. So I think those are the wins and the mistakes of that ad. So now quickly, let's go in and look at how to actually build an ad. Okay. So I've got a new ad account here that has nothing. We're going to go ahead and create something here. Um, and I'm not going to actually use real copy or real images. I just really want to walk you through and make you comfortable. First, let me go back here. This is Facebook's ad manager. It's sort of the back end of Facebook, business.facebook.com. This is where you set up your business settings and start to run your Facebook ads. You can also do them from Creator Studio if you're familiar with that from a social aspect. Like social content managers are often very familiar with Creator Studio. This is going to give you a little bit better interaction with your audiences and really how to create those. So I do not have any pages tied to this, so I'm going to try to walk you through this the best I can. So we're going to call this the test campaign, and we'll call it growth. Okay, I can go through here, buying type, auction, you're fine. In traffic, these brand awareness or reach, basically you're going to pay to reach more people. Your KPI there is impressions. For traffic, okay, you're going to look at traffic and you're going to get into things like link clicks, that type of thing. You want to drive traffic from Facebook to a place, and you're going to pay for link clicks there. Okay, app installs, you can run it for video views. Lead generation, I don't think is quite as strong, but we'll get into that in a little bit, doing that maybe a different way. Post engagement, which is really similar to that boost. In fact, it's nearly identical. And then page likes. This is what I kind of wanted to show you here, was that if I were to select page likes, then I am going to go into and I'm going to use my own page here. I am going to go into in creating these page likes. I'm going to drive people to an ad that basically says like my page. Okay. So in this instance, as far as page likes, the most important thing that you're going to want to do is actually get the right audience. It's going to be so key. Now, I'm going to sort of give you a little bit of the lead, a little bit, in the saying that, like, the most important thing is not the copy and it's not the image, it's the audience. Because the audience will be forgiving on some of the copy and some of the images, and it's impossible to get the perfect image because you could choose from going a million different directions. We went over that the ad member and we said, look, I would have done this differently. This ad may be very successful for them. I would have done this differently. This stained glass window thing, they could have gone from any myriad of images. They've created a completely different thumbnail. However they wanted to do it, there were so many ways. Trying to get the perfect image is nearly impossible. Okay, trying to get the perfect copy, nearly impossible. You can look at what somebody else did, but really you're guessing if it was good. I don't know that this was a good ad. It might be a failure. They may be sitting there thinking, "Oh, this is the worst ad we've ever run." And I might look at it and say, well, Airbnb is great, so I'm going to copy it because I think that what they're doing is good because I might like it. For them, it could be a complete failure. So don't copy people. Test, and figure out what you're doing. Grab ideas from people, but don't copy them because you never know if their ad is actually doing well or not. Okay. So again, here, if you're going to do page likes, you want to make sure that you get the right audience. We'll get into audience building from a technical perspective in a second. So here we're going to say traffic, okay, because we're going to focus on that a little bit more. I am going to create an ad set name, create an ad name. I'm going to save the draft. And it's going to bring me into what I'm creating is a campaign, okay? I can set my budget here. I'm not going to kind of get into that. If I'm running something that's political, I can create it for a special ad category. And I can select social issues, elections, or politics. This actually may affect quite a few of you nonprofits, whether that's for employment, housing, whatever your nonprofit is. This is a whole different ball game in the sense of getting a hold of Facebook, getting verified, getting your account verified, getting yourself verified in order to run ads. That there's a fairly complex process to go through for that. So I'll leave that to you to sort of explore so that I can speak generally to every different specific organizational set we have here. All right, so let's go into the ad set a little bit. And this is where I'm going to define my audience, okay? And so I can set my daily budget. You can also set this at the campaign level. I'm going to drive to a website. I'm not going to drive to an app or Messenger or WhatsApp, although all of those are available because they're Facebook. You have your dynamic creative here. You can drive more conversations by creating an offer. You can, for the sake of simplicity, we can bypass that here. I'm going to show more options that you can actually run ads at a specific time and to a specific date. Okay, but we'll say ongoing. That's fine. So for right now, we want to create an audience. And we want to, again, we're driving for link clicks, which is down here. You can actually change it to landing page views, which requires you to set up a pixel. Okay, if you don't know what a pixel is, I get it, and we're not going to cover the pixel here, but I do want to show you. This is where it gets into the complexity, and we're going to bypass some of that complexity, but I do want to point it out. So we're going to go through, and you can have automatic placements, or you can click manual placements. In here, we're going to look through, and they're going to have 4 different things. You can run it in Messenger. You can run it on on Facebook, on people's Facebook pages. Audience Network is something called an ad exchange. So whenever someone clicks on a link that goes to a page outside of Facebook, your ad can run on that person's website, and that is their ad exchange or their audience network. So it's outside of a social media platform on a website. And then, of course, Instagram. Okay. Now, some of these things are going to require, when we go to create the ad, some of these things are going to require that you actually use specific formats, meaning that like Instagram requires a square image. Facebook can use a square image. So if you want to run on both, I would recommend using a square image. Okay. So we are going to go through and create these different audiences. Okay. So we don't have any audiences. We can go ahead and edit things. I can target the United States. I can target different age groups. We're going to leave this as 18 to 65, but you can target whatever age group you want. Target whichever gender you want. Okay, we are going to go in here and we're going to edit the demographic. So because I am a marketing company, okay, or maybe let's say this, because you're a nonprofit, let's target some nonprofits. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to target nonprofit organizations. My audience size here is 113 million. It's fantastic, okay? Let's look at some other. Let's type in nonprofit again because it gave us some different things. We want to target foundations, nonprofit times, nonprofit technology, nonprofit community. So nonprofit community only has a size of, let me get over here. I don't think it's going to let me, 283. You can see there to the right. Not great. Nonprofit foundation, however, has 36 million, almost 37 million. Let's select that too, okay? So let's put both of these in our audience, right? But we also have some other interests. Like we know from a demographic standpoint that, let's say, women that have a master's degree are really fantastic, um, as a really fantastic demographic that we want to check. So we can go in here into education. We can go up here and change our gender audience, right? That's where we control the gender audiences. But we can go in here and we can say, all right, we want someone with a master's degree. Well, I can select that. Okay. So now Facebook is saying someone with a master's degree, foundation, nonprofit. Now, really quickly here, let's actually narrow the audience because we don't want someone with a master's degree or a foundation. We want someone with a master's degree and a foundation. So let's actually set a narrow audience and must also match. Okay, and here let's browse again. Let's go into demographics, education, educational level, master's degree. So this is, you're creating this and that statements here, right? This or that. So we have the genders here, and let's say you decided you wanted to only target women 18 to 65 that had a master's degree. Okay, you could probably narrow down your age because there's not many 18-year-olds with a master's degree, but nevertheless, like, so here we have individuals that are interested in nonprofit foundations or nonprofit organizations, and they have a master's degree, and they're women. Okay, so that is how you start to narrow down your audience, and that's why it's so important to understand your audience. You can go into Facebook Insights on your Facebook page, and it will tell you what your audience is. Narrow it down. You're going to spend less money trying to reach this more narrowed audience. But now we have a problem. If we run an ad and the ad is working really well, then how do we know if it was the foundation nonprofit that worked really well or the nonprofit organization ad set that worked really well? We don't. Facebook doesn't tell us that information. A lot of times people come in here into these interests and these behaviors and they start doing this. Nonprofit times, voluntary sector. Sure, that sounds right. Nonprofit technology, why not? Okay, I have no idea if any of these audiences are any good. The only way I'm going to know is if each one of these is in. Remember, so let's quickly go over. We have the campaign, right, which is what this whole thing is. In fact, actually, let me show you this here because it looks a lot better. We have this campaign, and in each campaign you have ad sets. It's where you define your spend, your budget, and your audience. And within each ad set, we have ads. Okay, and this is the look and feel of your ad. We'll get into that in a second. So in this ad set, we have all of these different factors, okay? Foundation, nonprofit, town. We are going to spend money in order to reach all of these different audiences, and we have no idea if one performs better than the other. So here is how you should build that out. Let's go through, let's delete these. We know everything, we know we want everything to look the same here, right? Like we want women 18 to 65. We know we want to target some different nonprofit stuff, but we know they need to have a master's degree. Okay, this is all hypothetical. I'm just kind of making this up as I go along here, in the sense of creating this very specific audience. So let's go back. So I want to go back and I'm going to show you how to specifically target this. But I only want to target one interest in this because that's sort of like the master's degree. We know all of these things are controlled. We know we want to stay though. The variable here is going to be this interest. So let's keep that there and let's do each one individually, because then I can go back in and I'll show you here. I'll be able to tell each ad set. In fact, actually, let's go ahead and read it. We're going to call this nonprofit, okay? And I'm going to go into this ad set. And this is foundation. So we kept this as foundation. So it says foundation because that is our ad set audience. And then I want to go to this ad, and I may name these ads like different things, whatever the case may be. But fundamentally, we're going to keep these ads here as foundation. Okay. You're going to get these warnings. Some of these warnings are incredibly important. Some of these warnings not so important. It doesn't matter so much. Okay. So this one here is telling me that it's not going to run on Instagram because my personal Instagram that it's set to here is actually private. So that's fine. I know it's private. Okay, so as we go here to create the ad, this is where we're going to do the image, right? This is where you can do a carousel image, you can do an image or a video, collection of images. You can even use an existing post. Um, what I want to impress upon here is that you can add media, okay? You can add image or a video, and you can upload it. Okay, I'm not going to upload one. I don't have one specifically created for this sort of fake ad. Let's see if I can find a random image on my computer that I can use. Oh, okay. This is a logo idea that we were toying around with. It may not be set, by the way, to the proper size for Facebook, but nevertheless, it's going to give us some. So I can click automatically crop to square here, and you can obviously see that it is going to cut it off in a lot of different places. I don't want to crop to square because I want it to show, and I can go in here, change the image, crop the image however I want. I know this is getting cut off, by the way, because I'm selecting a random. This wasn't built for an ad. Um, the aspect ratios. So if I go in here and I write my primary text, this is where, okay, here we have our primary text. And let's fill that in, okay? I'm going to go ahead and type in our primary text. I can make this, it can be rather long, whatever the case might be, okay? However you want to do, some people like to do these one-line things. It's really popular in ads right now. You can see here. And then also it's going to over here, it's going to give you some different look and feels about how things are going to look. The Facebook Marketplace, Facebook video feeds, Facebook group feed, how it's going to look on stories, the news feed. And then it should also give you a mobile version as well, which it doesn't seem to be showing me here, but that might be because of how I have just this test set up. But you will have a mobile placement as well to be able to see. So we got our text, right? And we got our see more button here. It's going to show you the 3 lines. Then we got our headline. This is a test ad. Okay, and that is going to actually just show down here. For the URL, I will use my organization's URL. Himandher.digital. Okay. It's going to populate here. Okay. And then this little bit of text that you see here on the bottom, which isn't present in every single ad, it's actually this little description part here, and we're going to add that as our description. And you can see it change here. So every single element, it gives the URL, right? Well, that's the URL that I put in. This is my organization's URL. This is a test ad is the headline, right? And I can, let's say I want to use like title caps. This is a test ad, exclamation point. Let's go ahead and let that update. Okay, so it's going to give me the title caps. It's a little bit bolder. You could do all caps. I would test those different things out to see what sort of works for your organization. We have the image, and right here we have learn more. Well, we have some options here as far as learn more of what we can do. We can have no button at all. Not great if I'm trying to drive traffic, Apply now, book now, donate now, download. A lot of these things get show times. These are going to be specific to sign up, right? These are going to be specific to what it is that you're doing. If I have a call to action like, I need you to sign a pledge, for instance, it's a great sort of like tool that you might want to use in order to collect email addresses. Sign up, might work there. So just have it fit to what the parameters of what your actual offer is. Okay, and we're going to go through the funnel here in just a second as far as how to create that offer. So we have our ad. I'm going to go ahead and close this. Okay, so obviously I have setup errors, but So we have our campaign here, and I'm going to go ahead and show you here where it's broken down. We have our campaign, which is at the top level. Within the campaign, we have ad sets, and within each ad set, we have an ad. Okay, so I've created this ad. I want to run this ad for every single different target that we're going to do. And so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to duplicate this. Okay, just going to hit duplicate. Because I want to know, is it foundations that does well? Okay, which we have here. And I'm going to go off of this here. And I'm going to select the campaign and I'm going to go into my ad sets and I'm going to see we have foundation copy. I want to edit that. Because remember, when we set up our target here, foundation nonprofit, we couldn't tell how well each thing was going to do. So I want to remove foundation, a nonprofit. I'm going to put in nonprofit again because I wanted to also test how well nonprofit organizations did. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to change my, because it's not foundations, it's nonprofit orgs. Okay. And within nonprofit orgs, I have an ad, right? So now I have this totally different audience that I'm testing here. I'm going to go in here to this ad. I want to keep the ad the same, but remember, I don't want to tie it to the foundation. So I'm just going to quickly change it here to nonprofit orgs so it matches its ad set parent. Okay. So now when I run this ad, before I would have just run one single thing and run a ton of different, interests and behaviors in this in one single ad set, and I would be wasting money. But here, instead of running, $20 here, I can set this to, I want to run nonprofit orgs. I want to run $10, and then I want to run $10 here. And then in a week, I can check back and I can say, oh, you know what? The foundation's lame. It's not getting me anything, but I'm driving a ton of traffic from nonprofit organizations. Okay. Again, here's a complexity that you can add if you're already really familiar with that, is adding in a custom conversion where you actually create a custom conversion that you can and set it up through a pixel on your landing page. For people that this is foreign, that's okay. You'll learn more about Facebook as you move along, as you get into it. For people that's not foreign, that's actually the proper way to be able to weigh your custom conversion elements here in to make sure, figuring out how your ad set is doing. So now I know who I'm targeting. Sometimes you might target competitors. Don't target all of your competitors in one ad set. Target multiple competitors by using different ad sets for each competitor, so you know which audience is actually working for you, which audience is signing up. Okay, so that is in effect how you drive traffic, right, from an audience, which was women 18 to 65. I'm going to try to do this off of memory. Women 18 to 65 that were interested in nonprofit orgs for this one and also had a master's degree. Women 18 to 65 interested in foundations and also had a master's degree. Okay, so we have that set up here. Now, quickly, I want to say that, and this is where we're going to, you can run the likes campaign exactly the same way. If you go back into, and I'm going to go ahead and pretend to create a campaign again, I go here and I select page likes, right? Okay, so page likes. That's fine. Run the exact same way. I'm going to find the people that are interested. And I think, some of this gets really super interesting. So I'll give you a really interesting example for us. We ran I'll give you two actually that kind of give some change of how you might want to test. We ran a political campaign that was targeting conservatives. Now, we could have just picked conservatives and ran it, and it would have been okay. What we actually found was the audience that reacted best to this specific ad were audiences that followed both the president and were pro-life. And so the thing is that had we just targeted conservatives, would have spent a lot of money targeting people that actually were not interested in engaging with this ad and signing up. Instead, when we targeted Trump supporters that were pro-life, our engagement rate exponentially grew, and we ended up getting the cost per conversion dropped from something around $2 per email acquired to I think 36 cents. So you can see the shift there that we were getting in on the right audience, and so that's really important. The other test that we ran was in regards to ads, so we'll be able to see this image here. We ran an ad, and it was a sort of an element calling people to prayer and offering a prayer guide. And we had an image of a lady that was sort of thoughtful and dealing with stress, and sort of an element of um, I'm stressed out. I need to pray. I need this prayer guide. I need to sort of bring prayer back into my life. So it was someone looking for something, and looking for something that they needed to add to their life. And then we had an image of a lady that was happy. And so she was smiling. The image was really bright. And that image is supposed to convey to the audience, this is who you are going to be. Like, you add prayer into your life, and relieving stress, and this is who you're going to be. And the what was really interesting was, in regards to it was an evangelical targeted audience. Um, in regards to targeting broad evangelicals all over the country, the lady that was sad did better. In regards to targeting the specific audience of this branded organization, the lady that was smiling closer fit to their brand. And so when we targeted their Facebook audience, we were able to, they reacted well to the lady that was smiling. So when we were running the ads, we targeted the national audience with the lady that was sad, and we targeted the Facebook audience with the lady that was smiling, so that we could kind of put that together, because we had learned that through testing. The other thing, really quick, that I want to do here, and I'm gonna duplicate this one more time, because we're going to. I want to show you one more thing, is that you can create a custom audience as well. And I'm going to scroll down here. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the ad. I want the ad set. And I can create a new custom audience. And this audience here is, I can target website visitors. I can upload my email list and target them specifically. I can target my Instagram account. I can target my Facebook page. And if I were to target my Facebook page, I would say anybody that engaged with us over the past 365 days. Okay, whatever that is. So you can create that custom audience. And then the other thing is you can create a lookalike audience. So you can create a custom audience and then select, like, I want other people that are generally similar to this type of person, this type of demographic that we've created. That is a great way to grow your audience. So it's important that I show you that. Okay, so I basically showed you how to create these ads, at least a very fast, and I apologize, a very fast overview of what is a very complex system. But what I want to do is pull the veil back just enough for you to get in here and start trying to do some of these things. You will learn very quickly, and I think that you may not test everything right away, but you might run an ad, and then the next ad you're like, I think I'm starting to learn some things. I wonder if I test this, how it will do. I think those types of things are super, super helpful, and will help you grow your audience and make you very comfortable with growing the audience. So let's get into how that turns into how you use these audiences that you build, and using these ads, and using the growth that you've done on Facebook. How do you turn that into a donor? And for that, we are going to get a little bit more complex. Okay. So I actually, I'm going to restructure this in a little bit of a less complex way for you, and have that as a handout for you to be able to use. But we're going to build something called a growth engine. Okay. And the growth engine is something that is incredibly important in the concept of how to turn your Facebook likes into donors. And it's really funny, because I'm going to break this down into a really simple algorithm here for you in a second. So first of all, you need to have your strategy. You got to develop your value proposition. You got to develop your objectives and your KPIs. What are you looking for out of your Facebook ad? And then you want to create demographics, right? Because you want to know, remember, we went through all those different demographics, and how you can have a demographic and you can layer it with, but also must have, right? And so you can do that. And then you can test some design. You can create some testing KPIs and optimization plans in order to say, like, remember, we tested the smiling lady versus the sad lady, and being able to compare those and learn about our audiences, right? So at the very beginning, you can go through an element of scientific method, right? creating all of your hypotheses, creating all the things that you're going to test, and building out your strategy. What is your ultimate objective that you're trying to reach? And how do you offer the value proposition for someone to actually even engage? Okay. Then you create the content. In the content in this instance, we're going to need a landing page. We're going to need a donation confirmation page. We're going to need the Facebook ad itself. Remember, how are we going to run the image on Instagram? It needs to be a square, that type of thing. The ad copy, maybe the ad video. Okay, it all plays back into here in the strategy and the objectives that we're trying to reach. That coordinate and force us into a sort of the parameters of how we create our content. And then finally, we have our tools processor growth loop. Now, this is where we actually get out of Facebook, right? Because Facebook is driving traffic. Well, where is it driving traffic to? It's driving traffic to a landing page. Unbounce, by the way, is just the specific landing page tool that we use, but you could use your website, you could use lead pages, whatever the case may be. Okay, Kajabi, Kartra, all of those. The Facebook ads drive us to the landing page. Once they sign up on the landing page, our confirmation page for their sign up, we want to be a donation. We want it to be a donation ask, right? This is a great place to really get those people. Remember we broke down in the other session. We said there's going to be people that immediately love you, people that are interested, and then people that kind of don't give you the time of day. The people that immediately love you, they may donate here. You want to give them that opportunity. Instant conversion. Your instant conversion rate is not going to be substantially high, but you're going to, it's a great way to identify those individuals that love you right off the bat. Okay. And then the donation confirmation page, then you want to start sending them through an email series, right? Welcome email number one. And you can also break them down, by the way. We have someone that signed up, they went to a donation confirmation page and they gave you money. Well, we want to give them a thank you right away. Maybe a video thank you from the CEO. These are ideas of a specific plan that we built. And three, a follow and engage. We want them to follow us on social media, okay? Because they gave right away. People that didn't give right away, we want to connect with them. Remember, these are the people that are researchers. So the people that really love you give right away. The second bucket are going to be those researchers, right? And for those people, we have the welcome series. We have email now, what we do and how we do it, okay? We're introducing them to our value proposition. Number two, we might ask them for prayer. We might get them to follow us on social, depending on what type of nonprofit you are. In this specific instance, we were asking them for prayer. In the third one here, we're going to do a soft ask, right? We're going to talk a little bit maybe about our vision. We're going to give a story in this email series. We're talking about a story or a testimonial. And then we're going to give a soft ask. This is why you need to give, because we have your emotional connection to the story. And then email number four in this specific series, which they usually range from 3 to 5 emails. And email number four, we're gonna do direct ask, and we're gonna offer some social proof as to why you should give in here, which reiterates the social proof that we gave here in this how do we do it in our value proposition. Okay, and then once we're done with that, we might send them in and put them in a bucket of our segment of people that get monthly newsletters and monthly asks. Okay, that is a lot. I understand that is a lot to take in. The one other audience that I want to deal with are the individuals that are just sort of like not giving you the time of day, like they're interested to look. Oftentimes what happens is those people were on your ad here, they clicked through and they got to your landing page and they did nothing, right? They didn't sign up. For that, and I'm not going to cover that here, you want to set up a retargeting campaign, which registers that those individuals were on that page, but they didn't sign up. So we want to retarget them and ask them to come back to that page. Maybe create a different ad that retargets them and says, here's some of the added value that we might have in this email series. And we want to put that in the ad because they obviously need a lot more in order to sign up. So it's a ton. I'm going to create this for you, recreate this in a much simpler way so that you can kind of see how this growth engine works. And so one of the things I want to do is give you a very simple breakdown of what that growth engine actually is. Of course, this doesn't get into the strategy or anything, but it is the simple funnel of how to turn your likes into donors. One, you create your Facebook ads, you target the people that liked you. Simple. You drive them to a landing page and you have an offer there. Maybe that's a pledge. Maybe you're offering an ebook resource. Maybe it's a petition, but you collect data on that landing page. Okay. Once they sign up, you immediately show them a donation page. That's key. The third thing is you create an email series. And in that email series, you have a lot more time to be able to connect to them on value proposition, the vision of the organization, and then have that call to action, which is obviously support your organization. So that is, in its most simplest terms, the way that you take all of the money and the value that you dropped into your Facebook audience and connect them into the call to action to support your audience and get them to engage with you in a much more substantial way. They've given you their email, and then taking that email and turning it into a donation. Obviously, there's complexity into how you optimize your emails and how you test your emails. All of that we're going to have to save for another day. But here in session 2, we really wanted to demonstrate how to use your ads to grow your audience, right? Boosting Facebook likes. We already showed you in session 1 how to get your brand right. Here's how to grow your audience, and then finally how to turn your audience that you've grown on Facebook, how to take that money, that time investment, and turn them into donors. So that's it as far as growth. I really hope you liked it. I really hope that you're commenting down below and engaging with us. We have some capstone stuff where we're going to cover some of this as well. And then, of course, the fundraising module definitely plays a deep part into what you're doing here. That's going to help you make better ads. It's going to help you make better asks on your donation pages. It's going to help you create better emails so that you can take this little small simple structure, and maybe you get into a little bit of this here where it's more complicated, and turn it into something successful. So appreciate it. Thank you.